Suge Knight, a name that once struck fear across the music industry. The man who built Death Row Records into a hip-hop empire is now a prisoner, struggling with failing health, fading power, and enemies who never forgot. Once a king of the streets, he is now reduced to just another inmate number. But how did a man so powerful fall so far? In the early 1990s, Suge wasn't simply a music executive. He was a kingmaker. With Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Tupac Shakur under Death Row Records, the label became more than music, it became a movement. Every track was a reflection of pain, struggle, and survival from the streets of Los Angeles. Fans heard art. Rivals heard a threat. Suge's empire wasn't just about selling records. It was about rewriting culture, about showing that the West Coast had a voice as loud as anyone's. But power came with a shadow. Suge's reputation was built not only on business but also on fear. Stories circulated everywhere. Some claimed he dangled Vanilla Ice from a hotel balcony. Others whispered about the bloody East Coast, West Coast feud, a war that left Tupac and Biggie dead. No one knew which stories were true, but that was exactly how Suge wanted it. Fear itself became his greatest weapon. In his world, respect wasn't earned through kindness, it was enforced through intimidation. That weapon, however, soon turned against him. In 2015, outside Tam's Burgers in Compton, Suge got into an argument that spiraled into chaos. Moments later, his truck ran over two men, killing one of them. He insisted it was self-defense, but the cameras told another story. The streets buzzed with shock. Was this the final act that would destroy the legend of Suge Knight? By 2018, the verdict was clear. In a courtroom packed with media, flashing cameras, and families of the victims, Suge Knight was sentenced. What could have been 11 years turned into 28, thanks to his violent past. The man who once moved with bodyguards, who once controlled millions, was reduced to prisoner #BKF0003. The fall was complete. The empire had collapsed, and Suge's new world was made of concrete walls and iron bars. Life behind bars is a different reality. Gone were the limousines, the studio sessions, and the luxury. Now Suge's days were reduced to count time, chow lines, and lights out. His health began to fail. Diabetes, blood clots, and rapid weight loss left him weaker than ever. In prison, weakness is a dangerous thing. It makes you a target. For Suge Knight, once the predator, he was now the prey. But it wasn't just his health. Suge had built a lifetime of enemies, and prison didn't erase them. From Dr. Dre to Diddy, from Snoop to countless others who once crossed paths with him, the list was endless. Influence doesn't disappear inside prison walls. It simply finds new ways to strike. For many, getting to Suge Knight was more than revenge. It was justice delayed. It was unfinished business. Outside those walls, his empire continued to crumble. Death Row Records was gone. His fortune evaporated through bankruptcies and lawsuits. At one point, Suge owed millions, stripped of the wealth that once made him untouchable. The man who built an empire of gold was left with nothing. Without power, without money, the shield that once protected him was gone. And in its place stood only a broken man. Still, Suge tried to fight. He filed appeals, hoping for a reduced sentence. He argued, begged, and pushed for second chances. But the judges were unmoved. They called his appeals too late, lacking merit. Every door slammed shut. The message was clear. Suge Knight was going to stay behind bars until at least 2034. Hope was gone. All that remained was time, slowly suffocating him, day after day. And so, the story of Suge Knight becomes a lesson, a warning, and a tragedy. A man who once ruled the music industry through fear, intimidation, and power now faces his final battle, survival inside prison walls. His name will always echo in hip-hop history, tied to legends like Tupac and Dre. But his downfall is just as legendary as his rise. The crown that once shone so brightly has long since fallen. The empire he built has crumbled to dust. The man who demanded respect is now struggling simply to live another day. And the question that lingers is haunting. Will Suge Knight survive his prison sentence? Or will his enemies, his mistakes, and his past finally finish what they started?